Hi, everyone. Ed Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this is Spotlight Now. Today, I'm with Tim O'Brien. Tim is the Director of Design for Natural Burial Vessels, an Indonesian company that crafts eco-friendly funeral products. Tim has worked in Indonesia for over 25 years, working with artisan communities to apply natural, renewable materials to craft distinctly beautiful, multifunctional, and eco-rational furniture and homewares. His design instincts are influenced by George Nakashima's work, and he believes that environmentally circumspect and supportive product choices should be available in every marketplace. He also believes that people evolve to prefer natural materials and forms to characterize their living and workspaces. Tim leads the MBV design team, and he also offers an experienced hand in logistics management. So, welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Ed. Uh, yeah, you characterized it well. I've been working in Indonesia for actually near 30 years now, and always with a focus on trying to use materials and production practices that are more attentive to, environmental responsibility. Um, and also, that's an area where there are many natural resources that are that lend themselves to creating the things that I've chosen to create, furniture, homewares, as you mentioned. And also there's a very diverse uh, history of artisanship using all of those materials that goes back for millennia, really. And so I started those 30 years ago designing and crafting wood furniture and wood homewares using salvaged woods, because it's one of the woodiest places on the planet, Indonesia. And so there's back then, and probably today too, there's more wood waste than in most other places. And a lot of that wasted wood is not only very serviceable to our goals, but also very beautiful. And so we were one of the early companies, I think, that were emphasizing the beauty that exists in distressed and, very figured woods. Uh, so that's how I got into working in Indonesia and working in the, natural material space. So few years after I started the furniture company, um, I became aware that there was also a diverse marketplace there for, renewable, natural woven materials. And so that includes, and what we include in our caskets today are rattan, seagrass, banana fiber, coconut fiber, acacia fiber, bamboo, and there are others that we will apply in time. So I started then, this is probably 20, 25 years ago, designing sort of complementary homewares to the furniture. So, storage vessels and, entrance mats and seating and, different things that you can make beautiful, craft beautiful product, that can be beautifully crafted from these natural fibers. And so, but it really wasn't until so we became good at that. I mean, I'd say expert in a narrow range of things. Um, but it really wasn't until about 2.5 years ago that somebody uh, asked us to craft a couple of caskets. And that had never occurred before. And I was immediate, when I saw the specs, I was confident we could do it. And after a few iterations, we were able to complete it to his satisfaction. But that job made me think about, the funeral industry, because, we're all pretty life centric and not a lot. It's not natural, at least it wasn't to me, to start thinking about how the funeral industry, what equipment is used, what the practices are even. I was kind of in that rather large sea of people who just kind of shrug and go, yeah, I'm going to get cremated, whatever. So in my investigation, I discovered that this is, 2.5 years ago, that the industry was shifting quite dramatically toward use of so-called green equipment and green practices. And so I began to look into that. At first, the first things we actually made for the industry were wooden caskets using salvaged woods. They were very beautiful objects, but it's costly to use wood, and for all the other reasons, shipping, storage. But I also learned in that investigation that already in the United States, some companies were bringing to the marketplace woven caskets. And while, and they are very, environmentally friendly, as they say, 100% biodegradable. And that was very admirable. But I saw an opportunity because of our broader experience, I think, with materials and with craft. We could sort of add more aesthetics to that range of options. And so we just started crafting different caskets. Today somebody was asking us about making a rainbow casket. I thought that would be pretty cool, and it's very achievable too. So yeah, so that's how I got into it, and it's been quite inspiring to envision how people, the different ways that people might realize a funeral ceremony. And that is, coincidentally and happily, that's going on in the industry. People are rethinking, how to, how to carry out funerals. And so this, what we do really lends itself to that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a true form of expression, I mean, as to what someone's life may have been or the way they chose to live their life. Certainly, I've seen some beautiful products come out of Indonesia. I totally understand where you're coming from. It makes a lot of perfect sense. And it really takes someone like yourself, Tim, that's open-minded to see the advantages of embracing something like this, opposed to looking for something that's cookie cutter. And, you're a great interview because you really give a lot of the information without asking, which is perfect. And, what I'd like to know is, so I know there's a lot of weaving communities, in Indonesia, and it could probably be economically challenged.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about the traditional art.
This
and the
is
culture
really
that goes into
interesting.
your
Yeah,
products.
this is highly motivating too. These weaving communities that I worked with, to say nothing of the wood communities, they've all been experiencing, the economic impacts that really the entire world knows about, from COVID to just like current disruptions, right?
Right.
But the weaving communities in particular were losing their, their access to markets, except for local markets, because they were being replaced by plastics and mechanization. And it can be done cheaper and faster. And so for that storage container that I very intentionally wanted it to be hand woven and made entirely of natural materials to create a counterpart to the plastic ones, right? But the reality is the price differentiation between those two grades was just growing wider and wider. And those weaving communities could not, some of them began to apply plastics in their work, but that's not what I wanted. You guys, can you please take the dog? Okay. Sorry about that, Ed.
It's okay.
And so their weaving capacity was shrinking. And will you stop it? Sorry about
It's okay.
that. And so I envision, now it hasn't happened yet, but if I can be effective at making the market for these caskets and carriers, and we're even weaving some urns now, and other objects, that I think could work into that space. I can expand the weaving community again. I can revive it, and it's a small goal, but who knows? I really think that the funeral industry is tending toward embracing these woven caskets and other eco-friendly equipment that people are producing. And the reason I think that is because I'm a baby boomer. Many of the baby boomers who sort of grew up through that period of environmental awareness, they, in varying ways, have practiced their lives as, environmental activists, maybe modestly, just by making choices about what they buy and so forth. And that is a very ingrained now element of people's perspective, right? And that generation. And so it seems like it's very logical that that would extend towards how they want, how they want to be managed when they've died, right? And I think that that's very logical. And then generations after the baby boomers, they've had to more sort of viscerally encounter these environmental impacts, climate change being the top of. So I think that it's an easy transition from some traditional practices that have, that people have discovered, that science has discovered, are not, collectively a great choice for our environment. And so I think the transition, if you can make the alternative, eco-friendly set of products engaging, aesthetically engaging, beautiful, and also economically, affordable, I don't think the transition will be that great of an ask. That's my opinion.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think you hit on a point that many people really haven't maybe thought about, but these are true works of art. I mean, these are, every single one of them is distinctly different in one or certain way, even though I'm sure, the production and design process is similar, but because it is hand woven, it will be something of its own. So with that being said, how long does the design and production process usually take? And at this point in time, are people able to have something that's a custom design, or would that be something in the future?
Yeah, custom designs are definitely something we can deliver on, provided we have obviously enough time, right?
Correct.
But as far as the actual construction of the products, it's pretty straightforward. There's a group who receives the raw product. We dry it in a kiln first, and then you have to sort of, we receive the raw product. They like for rattan, for example, usually, the rattan, the people who harvest it, mostly in Borneo is where we source our rattan, they'll take off all of the, uh, it's a skin that has thorns on it, and so they'll remove that. But it has to be serviced again once it gets to the production warehouse. Then it has to be dried. So they create these rods, and so there's a group that is expert at that, just managing the material. There's another really important group who's expert at shaping the skeletons of the products, the frames. They're very, very seasoned bamboo benders, basically. And so you create, you get the raw product, you create the frames, and then you weave the sheath onto the top and the bottom. Now, interestingly, everyone thinks, well, how long does this take? The most skilled artisan is able to weave 2 entire caskets in one day. Now, that's not, he doesn't create the frame, but he can weave, in one
Right.
day, 2 caskets, which is really, impressive. But it
Oh,
also speaks to how just skilled they are. They're so fast. I've done it, and it's very kind of meditative. I did about a half a casket. uh, but it requires, yeah, it's a lot of repetition, but you can't get it wrong, So anyway,
no, 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 no. Well, that's really good to know because I think people in their mind's eye don't really understand the process. And you
yeah,
really gave a good description as to, exactly what goes into it. And that's actually very impressive. Certainly there's some preparation, but to know that 2 could be done in a day. And what's beautiful about that is that also provides, not only a sustainable option, but employment for these weavers, for them to be able to make something that not only is important to the environment and to the world, but to the people that they make it for. So I love it. I think it's great. Uh, with that being said, I mean,
if I can expand that, the
sure.
capacity of that community, that'll be a great goal accomplished for me. Because this
And I
is,
think,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I think you will. No, no, I absolutely think you will because I think you're spot on. 15 years ago, when some of these products started to hit the market in the funeral industry, they weren't really taken seriously. But you're 100% correct that with the baby boomers and with the changes in the funeral industry, they are now being looked at very differently. And I think this is a real opportunity for your company, for your employees, for the weavers that you have to really, make a big difference. So
I think
kudos
so.
to you guys.
Interestingly, when I started to, investigate this market, and I was just calling around to, the established experts, uh, seeking, counsel, guidance, their opinions, basically. And I spoke to a couple of people, who to whom I described this vision of really, really, applying aesthetics in the creation of these objects, these products. And they actually told me, they said it's not important. It only needs to be 100%, eco-friendly, biodegradable, and achieve kind of minimal standards of uh, how it looks. And I was like, but wouldn't people, if given the option, wouldn't many also be inclined to choose color, for example? And they were not entirely dismissive of it, but the message was, I don't think it really matters. But we have absolutely proven that people like to have a choice of color, for example, of shape. And it should, I mean, everyone should remember too that sure, the person who has died may have favored, uh, you know, this aesthetic and chose it before they passed. But in the end, who's seeing it? The people who love them and who he or she loved are seeing the last physical representation, of this person. And so if they can choose something that is more, that they judge as more beautiful, more elegant, more engaging, then that you've added something positive to kind of a fraught situation. That's, I get that about people. They like detail that appeals to them.
Absolutely, death positivity, and it is truly, celebrating a life that was lived. So that really, you understand that, and I think more and more people are coming to grips with that. And the beautiful thing is that as you're entering into this, we always have a question at the end that we like to ask: where would you envision, or where would you like to envision natural burial vessels? Let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I hope we grow enough so that I can also grow the communities who produce, grow their, economic situation. Um, I hope that I hope I live to see a, you know, a, a change in the industry so that this becomes, a natural, a logical option among the things that are offered to people, at a time when someone has died. Instead of something marginal, I think it should be as as accessible as many of the other established modes of funeral management, whatever.
Absolutely. No, Tim, it's a lovely vision, and I know you will achieve that and you will see it. And we at the Global Green Burial Alliance, we support and really appreciate the hard work that you've done. And, that goes into the people of Indonesia, giving an opportunity for them to be part of something larger with their weaving community and offering these beautifully woven products, not only within their own country, but worldwide. I think it's something to be really proud of. And we here at the GGBA, we thank you, Tim, for being here today. We want to let our viewers know you can learn more about Tim and natural burial vessels at naturalburialvessels.com. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tim, and we here at the GGBA will support your efforts and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Ed. Really nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too. So everybody, we'll see you at the next spotlight, and check out Tim and Natural Burial Vessels and take a look at what they're doing, that good work supported over there in Indonesia.